Hello, everyone. I'm Shiraz, the president of FinTeens, and today I'm joined by Ben, our vice president, and Charlie, a director at FinTeens. FinTeens is an international youth organization that unites high school and college students from over 40 countries who are passionate about finance. We aim to provide our members, regardless of their stage in their financial education journey, with unique opportunities for learning through episodes with people in the financial realm and political realm alike.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Michael Koslow, a dedicated candidate running for Congress in California's 26th district. With a distinguished background in the Air Force, counterintelligence, and entrepreneurship, his campaign focuses on addressing key issues that affect everyday Americans. Welcome, Mr. Koslow, and thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure and privilege to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So first off, we'll talk about financial literacy. So financial literacy is obviously limited in schools, not a main curriculum class in most schools. And how do you think we can improve financial education in this country for students?
Well, certainly good question. From my perspective, I think we all learn a little bit behind the proverbial power curve as it relates to what finances are and how to go ahead and effectively manage those. Not only just from we all have had savings accounts and checking accounts when we've pursued jobs, opportunities when we're in our teens. I was certainly there. I started out with a paper route where I had 435 papers to deliver every morning. So I had to have some mechanism to be able to go ahead and save. So I opened up a savings and a checking account. Very, very rudimentary. And it's a good place to go ahead and start. But it is only a start. And you're not certainly making any money. And you're not learning about financial investment opportunities as well. I think some schools, some more established schools, have elective courses that provide that kind of opportunity for us to be able to go ahead and learn more about savings and savings in the right way to be able to diversify. And there's a key, is to have diversity, is to have financial courses. A lot of times we don't see those until we get into, even then, at community college levels. In fact, I might add, I just received my doctorate from USC, about 4 months ago. So, and I saw a lot of people and talked to a lot of people that were involved in that program that certainly didn't have that financial diversity and familiarization with how to go ahead and effectively save and invest for the future. And whether that's in real estate, whether it's in bonds, stocks, equities, whatever the case may be. And those are all different types of terminologies that you may or may not be aware of. But it's a learning process, and the only way to become effective at that within that learning process is to become proficient and apply that information and that knowledge. So I think we need to have a progressive scale in schools that starts maybe at even the middle school level, as far as in basic financial wherewithal and responsibility and competency. And I think that can start with basic 401 401s and 401ks, and then just basic stocks. I've seen parents provide some what I used to call play money, ironically, to be able to go out and just play in the market, day trading, and those kinds of things. And I think most of the folks on this call probably are familiar with those terms and have been permitted to go ahead and work in those areas and navigate those areas. But I think that's what it comes down to, is getting in school and learning at a rudimentary level what all these different capabilities are: bonds, stocks, mutual funds, and then start there and then grow. And once you get adept and get versatile of using those particular financial apparatus and tools, then you can start moving into more of the complex financial markets. And then internationally as well. We have international funds and international investment opportunities too. So that's more advanced. And you really got to be familiar with the way the markets work in an economical way and interact with each other from a trade perspective. So yes, to answer your question, I think the schools need to be able to have a progressive scaling of financial competencies that we can impart to a lot of our youth.
We 100% agree with that. It's not acknowledged enough about having financial literacy in any school's curriculum. And It needs to be an option. Now,
And
it's clear you're a very experienced man, from being in the military to being a crime investigator to then eventually helping manage and being a high position at many companies to starting your own business 7 years ago. So what brought you into the world of finance and the decision to
Mhm.
start your own business?
Good. It was a nice journey, and it still hasn't finished yet. And that's, you always want to grow. You never want to stagnate, because if you're not growing, you're either declining or stagnating, and you don't want to be in either of those positions. So, and it's challenging and it's interesting. Once you familiarize yourself with the financial markets and how they work, it's actually challenging, exciting to be able to see, am I right? Am I, sometimes it's best guess. Hopefully you're making an educated guess when you're involved in the financial markets. But where I started, interestingly enough, was when I was an OSI agent and then moving into the Department of Defense. You're dealing with multi-billion-dollar weapons systems.
Mhm.
And my job within the Department of Defense was to go ahead and provide forensic auditing for all intent and purposes, and accountabilities for where all those billions of dollars are going. Are they being spent properly? Are they being advertised and allocated in the right ways based upon the appropriations that the Congress would give to us? So that's where I got my start, is being able to go ahead and work on different types of complex fraud cases that really gave me the insight and the ability to start working with complex different types of software, accounting software, learning the auditing processes associated with the Department of Defense and the common auditing systems that are out there right now for accountability purposes, and the formulas that are associated with accounting, standard accounting practices. So that came from the Department of Defense. And then that gave me the knowledge so that when I did start doing essential research associated with starting up a business 7 years ago, that I had a general understanding and basic knowledge of what to do, where to go, what kind of questions to ask, and what kind of website information I needed to be able to go ahead and market my talents.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your insights on that. So we kind of want to see the financials of running a political campaign. So could you tell us a little bit about that and how your past experience have shaped that?
Again, another good question. You're moving into an area that really, it takes research. You can rely on people, and my experience has been is that you can rely on people, but it's the old adage that Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify, because we heard a lot of horror stories where accounting managers have stolen money, misappropriated funds. So it's good that you know and understand and do regular reviews and provide yourself insight sufficient enough to be able to say, okay, I'm comfortable that my accounting processes are accurate and align with the decisions that I have made in the past as it relates to financial discretionary decision making to run the business. From a political standpoint, first thing that I did is I did some research and found who are the best out there, and then try to balance that with cost accounting as far as what is economical, because you want to find that what they call point of diminishing return. You can get the best out there, but you're going to pay the high price associated with that. So do you get the high end range and pay that? And is it going to be beneficial for you for a low income or low start political campaign, which is where I was at. First time going in, didn't have a lot of funding, a lot of money, using my own funds, I might add, when I started. And then it started growing from there with a lot of support from both individual as well as company donations. So I brought in somebody that was well known, that had come very highly regarded from other congressional candidates. They've used these people before, and you have a list and you interview them. And then you evaluate based upon all the different factors that you establish, as far as in credibility, as far as in knowledge, competency, capability, as to how they're going to do a good job for you and what controls are in place for you to gain. And there's a key to gain insight down to the penny of what is being spent, how it's being spent, and is aligned with the validations and the authorizations that you as a candidate have made. So all that being said is putting controls in place to make sure that what you think is happening is actually happening from a fiduciary perspective.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. And just to pinpoint something you said earlier about middle school curriculums, FinTeens is actually releasing soon, coming into this next school year, a middle school curriculum that we're going to use for our middle school members. And we're going to try to dip into that pool to kind of grow our team here. And also, I have a question. So, when you first got into this, how did your opponent's financial situations compare to yours? And how did you kind of handle that if someone had more money or less money?
Good question, and it varies. It comes down to one, are they an incumbent? As in my case, I was going up against an incumbent and am going up against an incumbent that is very financially established based upon not only their own income, but more so by the party politic. The party has really provided them with a significant funding stream that gives them a considerable advantage financially. So you're starting out in a disadvantaged perspective in somebody like mine case. Now, for somebody that has the wherewithal personally, and I've seen this from people generating their own funds and using their own funds from $10,000 of their own up to, in one case in Nevada, a friend of mine who was running for Congress up there spent almost $350,000 of their own personal revenue to run for office. Now, so it really comes down to your personal ability and commitment to be able to go ahead and work toward being elected in a public office. That also being said, is my opponent had quite a bit of money, so recognizably, you also understand that they don't want to use it unless they have to, because they want to hold it all back and for that last month or two to be able to effectively have a blast of emails, have a blast of mailings, and then TV spots possibly. So you want to save it as long as you can and not arbitrarily spend it. Likewise, I'm in the same boat, is that you have to be very strategic about when you spend it and where you spend it and why you spend it. So because you have, in my case, you have less money and less funding to be able to go ahead and generate and spend on necessary staffing issues as well as publicity and marketing. So you got to be conscientious of that and very frugal, because the sky's the limit. If you have $20 million, then you have a lot more flexibility. But if you only have $20,000, and that's certainly not my case, but when you only have $20,000 or less, then you have to be very frugal and very strategic about how you spend your money.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you starting with your own funds is pretty, and growing from there is pretty impressive. Now, going back to your work with crime investigation and even with the FBI, because I know many believe, if they don't want to go in the realm of business or finance, that not more than the basic education about economics and financial literacy is needed. How important is advanced financial literacy needed in that line of work?
It depends on where you specialize, frankly. I mean, when I first started, in all seriousness, Ben, is when I first started that I was working general crimes as far as in death investigations, arson investigations, some explosive domestic terrorism cases where we had people blowing up helicopters and things like that. Undercovers as far as in different types of undercover opportunities where people were misusing government supplies and materials. So that's where I started, doing those kinds of cases, and also on protective services as well, doing protective services on foreign dignitaries and government officials. So I started on that as well. But then transitioned to counterintelligence, counter-espionage, and undercover narcotics. Actually had a little pierced ear and long hair and mustache, beard, all that sort of thing, working in Arizona. Yeah, I know. So that was my lifestyle for a while, actually, working in an undercover capacity. And it was very, very, very beneficial and learned a lot. But as I moved into white collar crime and complex fraud investigations, that's where I started having the need for financial versatility and to understand how to use Excel, how to manipulate Excel, access databases. So that we started getting more and more complex audit types of software. Lotus 123 is what I started with way back when. So, and you have to self-learn a lot of this, or you can go to formal classes if you have time. And I did a combination of those. But really what it came down to is that you have to have some really great mentors and align yourself with those people and learn as much as you can about the art, the tact of being able to go ahead and learn about finances. And the better the person, the more successful they are. That may be unique to them, so you got to take that with a grain of salt, but learn as much as you can, self-study as much as you can, read books, get online, take courses, seminars, and really, really emphasize, and there may be some overlap, fortunately. We say, hey, I've seen this before. So you are learning something. So I think it really comes down to you have to have the self-motivation and the wherewithal and the desire to learn, and then you will do well in finances. But you've got to learn as much as you can. And the key is, just like in mathematics, if you were to take me back to my geometry class, I'd have a hard time right now, other than the basics,
Yeah.
because you just don't use it all the time. So you got to maintain proficiencies, and you got to use it over and over and over again. Because I even find that when doing formulas in Excel, how did you do that sum formula again? So you got to stay proficient.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. Always need to refine your skills over time. Make sure you don't forget. Yeah, so we kind of want to move on here to talking a little bit about small business. So we want to see, as small business is the backbone of our community. How can we better support them and ensure they thrive?
And that's really an area near and dear to my heart, because like I said, I sit on the National Small Business Association Leadership Council advocating for businesses nationwide and their dilemmas and the problems. Well, a couple of things. One is, the first place to start is always talk to your councilmen, talk to your supervisors, write letters, and convey the concerns that small businesses have. We've seen so many go out of business over the last 3 to 4 years because small businesses comprise about 92% of all businesses in the United States. And that really is the backbone of our ability to thrive as a capitalistic society and have international trade. We need to have commodities that we can go ahead and share, sell, and import and export to other countries, mostly export. And because of that, we have to talk with our not congressional, but more of our local and community leadership, and to ask them, our chambers of commerce, and understand what is their motivation, what is their focus, what are their goals and priorities, and ask them, what are you doing to better enhance policies at the state level and the national level that enhance the ability of small businesses to thrive? Because I hear a lot about permit processes, about overregulation, over taxation, to the point where it's almost impossible for small businesses to flourish anymore, especially in the state of California. So we need to deregulate. We need to streamline policies that allow businesses to thrive, but keep checks and balances in place to make sure that they're not doing something nefarious, especially when there's safety issues involved. So those are the things that I think that we really could be doing to help small businesses.
Thank you. And there are lots of small businesses in Ventura, so that's the place that you would be having jurisdiction over. So what specific initiatives would you advocate for when elected?
When elected, I'll be working.
Yeah.
Sure. When elected, I'll be working clearly with our supervisors and our mayors, as I am doing now, as a matter of fact, talking with them regularly, to go ahead, and the chambers of commerce. I belong to the majority of the chambers of commerce out here, to be able to get, first of all, you've got to ask the relevant questions. What do you see here as the problems? And they all may be unique or similar, depending on the circumstances, in each of the respective communities. But you, as an elected official, need to ask the right questions, show concern for what is happening, the economic development departments in the state. Ask all the right questions of the right departments and people to make sure that what have they identified as the problems, and does that align with the national problems in some way? And then find different funding streams and mechanisms. That's one of the things that I see as a leader, is to ask the right questions, find out what the problems are, find the experts that have experience in addressing those problems, and then being able to go ahead and work together collaboratively as an organization and a group of people that have that experience to be able to come to resolution solutions that are going to resolve those issues that help our small businesses thrive and perpetuate them, so that way they can continue on. Because there's two things: one, income, and leaving a legacy for family. I mean, the old family businesses. I mean, I grew up with that in New York, and that's really what you want to see is, people spend their lives building a business from small to something that may be major or mega corporations. But you want to see that thrive and continue. And by overregulating them and creating permit dilemmas, that's just not helping them. So we need to work with the Small Business Administration to come up with different grant programs, maybe startups. We already have minority women, veteran startup capabilities, and make sure that those businesses are relied upon and make made in USA mean something again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
that's all we had. So thank you again. It was
Wonderful
awesome having you
interview.
today. Yeah.
No, I thank you as well. I mean, like I said, this is important to me from a perspective of being able to just go ahead and, you gain all this knowledge and being around for a couple of years, and I want to be able to go ahead and share as much as that as I can.